yourself and people.
Hello and welcome. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran and you're watching Newsnight on DD India, your prime-time destination for news and bespoke analysis. It's good to see you again. All right, on the show tonight, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman presented the Economic Survey 2020-21 this afternoon. The Economic Survey was authored by a team led by Chief Economic Advisor Dr. Krishnamurthy Subramanian. And what's more, Dr. Subramanian will join us momentarily to help you, the viewer, make sense about the state of the Indian economy. Also on the show, President Ramnath Kovind addresses a joint sitting of Parliament on day one of budget session. He defends the three contentious farm laws that sparked protests. Plus, news and updates from India and the world. All that and much more coming up over the next 1 hour. But first, as always, the headlines. President Ramnath Kovind addresses joint session of Parliament on day one of budget session, says new farm laws benefit more than 10 crore farmers, describes the violence unleashed in the city in the name of farmers' protest on 26 January as unfortunate. President Kovind highlights achievements of government, says COVID-19 vaccination drive, the world's largest, is a matter of pride for the country. Lauds security forces for foiling all attempts to change the status quo at the line of actual control. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says the first Parliament session of the decade is important for bright future of India, says it is a golden opportunity to fulfill the dreams of freedom fighters. Lok Sabha Speaker holds an all-party meeting for smooth conduct of the House. Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman tables Economic Survey 2020-21 in the Lok Sabha. India's GDP estimated to contract by 7.7% in 2020-21. Next fiscal's GDP growth pegged at 11%. Some farmers continue their sit-in on the outskirts of Delhi. Locals urge protesters to vacate the site. A police officer attacked at Singhu border. Union Minister Smriti Irani slams Rahul Gandhi of the Congress party for inciting the protesters. Government approves additional central assistance of more than 1,700 crore rupees under National Disaster Response Fund to the states of Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, Odisha, Telangana and Uttar Pradesh, which were affected by floods or landslides during southwest monsoon and hailstorm during Rabi 2019-20. A low-intensity blast near Israeli embassy in Delhi, no injuries reported. Foreign Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar speaks to his Israeli counterpart, says matter under investigation. And beating retreat brings curtains down on Republic Day celebrations. Military bands enthrall the audience. President, Vice President and Prime Minister attend the function. Welcome once again. Now, President Ramnath Kovind on Friday defended the three contentious farm laws that sparked protests in some parts of the country. In his customary address for the joint sitting of Parliament on the first day of the budget session, the President said violence unleashed in Delhi on Republic Day and the dishonouring of tricolour after a mob breached the Red Fort were unfortunate.
In his address to the joint sitting of Parliament on the first day of the budget session, President Ramnath Kovind highlighted various initiatives launched by the government for the welfare of farmers. Highlighting the key aspects of the three agriculture reform laws, the President said that benefits of these three important farm reforms have started reaching more than 10 crore small farmers instantly.
इन कृषि सुधारों का सबसे बड़ा लाभ भी 10 करोड़ से अधिक छोटे किसानों को तुरंत मिलना शुरू हुआ। छोटे किसानों को होने वाले इन लाभों को समझते हुए ही अनेक राजनीतिक दलों ने समय समय पर इन सुधारों को अपना भरपूर समर्थन दिया था। वर्तमान में इन कानूनों का अमलीकरण देश की सर्वोच्च अदालत ने स्थगित किया हुआ है। मेरी सरकार उच्चतम न्यायालय के निर्णय का पूरा सम्मान करते हुए उसका पालन करेगी।
The President also termed the recent acts of dishonoring the national flag and showing disrespect to the auspicious occasion of Republic Day as unfortunate.
लोकतंत्र और संविधान की मर्यादा को सर्वोपरि रखने वाली मेरी सरकार इन कानूनों के संदर्भ में पैदा किए गए भ्रम को दूर करने का निरंतर प्रयास कर रही है। मेरी सरकार ने लोकतंत्र में अभिव्यक्ति की आज़ादी और शांतिपूर्ण आंदोलनों का हमेशा सम्मान किया है, लेकिन पिछले दिनों हुआ तिरंगे और गणतंत्र दिवस जैसे पवित्र दिन का अपमान बहुत दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण है। जो संविधान हमें अभिव्यक्ति की आज़ादी का अधिकार देता है, वही संविधान हमें सिखाता है कि कानून और नियम का भी उतनी ही गंभीरता से पालन करना चाहिए।
The President also assured that the rights and facilities available under the system prevailing before the enactment of the 3 new laws are not affected in any way.
मेरी सरकार ये स्पष्ट करना चाहती है कि 3 नए कृषि कानून बनने से पहले पुरानी व्यवस्थाओं के तहत जो अधिकार थे तथा जो सुविधाएं थी उनमें कहीं कोई कमी नहीं की गई है, बल्कि इन कृषि सुधारों के जरिए सरकार ने किसानों को नई सुविधाएं उपलब्ध कराने के साथ साथ नए अधिकार भी दिए हैं।
The country's first citizen said that over the last 6 years, the government has attempted to bring positive transformation in the seed-to-market system so that Indian agriculture is modernized. The President said that the government decided to implement the recommendations of the Swaminathan Committee report and increase the MSP to at least 1.5 times of the cost of production. The President added that food grain availability in the country is at a record high. In 2008-2009, food grain production in the country was 234 million tons, whereas in 2019-20, production has increased to 296 million tons. Besides, in order to provide expenditure support to farmers, almost 1,13,000 crore rupees have been directly transferred to their bank accounts under Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi. Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana has also benefited small farmers of this country. Under the scheme, in the last 5 years, about 90,000 crore rupees have been paid as compensation to tillers against a premium of 17,000 crore rupees. The President noted that the mission for setting up 10,000 farmer-producer organizations by bringing together small farmers of the country is also an impactful step. Agriculture Infrastructure Fund of 1 lakh crore rupees has also been set up to enhance the profitability of agriculture. So far, over 100 Kisan rails have enabled farmers to transport over 38,000 tons of food grain, fruits and vegetables from one region to the other. The government has also set up the Animal Husbandry Infrastructure Development Fund for 15,000 crore rupees for creating basic infrastructure and encouraging investment in dairy sector. Efforts have been undertaken to increase the income of fishermen through the Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana. In this sector, an investment of about 20,000 crore rupees has been planned over the next 5 years.
आत्मनिर्भर भारत का हमारा लक्ष्य आत्मनिर्भर कृषि से और सशक्त होगा। इसी सोच के साथ सरकार ने बीते 6 वर्षों में बीज से लेकर बाजार तक हर व्यवस्था में सकारात्मक परिवर्तन का प्रयास किया है, ताकि भारतीय कृषि आधुनिक भी बने और कृषि का विस्तार भी।
The President further said that the goal of an Atmanirbhar Bharat will be further strengthened by self-reliance in agriculture. With inputs from Parliament team, Newsnight Desk, DD India.
And President Kovind also spoke about India's fight against the COVID-19 pandemic and self-reliant India campaign. Take a listen. President Ramnath Kovind, in his address to the joint sitting of both houses, mentioned in detail about the pandemic and Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign. Referring to the global corona pandemic, the President said every Indian has fought the crisis with firm determination and belief that no matter how big the challenges, India will never stop.
मुझे संतोष है कि मेरी सरकार के समय पर लिए गए सटीक फैसलों से लाखों देशवासियों का जीवन बचा है। आज देश में कोरोना के नए मरीजों की संख्या भी तेजी से घट रही है और जो संक्रमण से ठीक हो चुके हैं उनकी संख्या भी बहुत अधिक है। अर्थव्यवस्था को संभालने के लिए रिकॉर्ड आर्थिक पैकेज की घोषणा के साथ ही मेरी सरकार ने इस बात का भी ध्यान रखा कि किसी गरीब को भूखा न रहना पड़े।
Referring to Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign, the president said the dream of an empowered and free India, which our freedom fighters had envisioned, was also based on the idea of self-reliance of the country.
हमारे लिए यह और भी गर्व की बात है कि आज भारत दुनिया का सबसे बड़ा टीकाकरण अभियान चला रहा है। इस प्रोग्राम की दोनों वैक्सीन भारत में ही निर्मित हैं। संकट के इस समय में भारत ने मानवता के प्रति अपने दायित्व का निर्वहन करते हुए अनेक देशों को कोरोना वैक्सीन की लाखों खुराक उपलब्ध कराई है।
The president said the gains from the work done by government in the healthcare sector in the past 6 years were visible during the coronavirus pandemic. He said small-scale industries have immense potential of making India self-reliant. He said the government is encouraging public participation in consumption of domestically manufactured goods.
मेरी सरकार भारत में बने सामान के उपयोग के लिए जन भागीदारी को प्रोत्साहित कर रही है। आज वोकल फॉर लोकल देश में जन आंदोलन का रूप ले चुका है। भारत में बने सामान के प्रति भावनात्मक लगाव के साथ ही गुणवत्ता में भी श्रेष्ठ हों, इस दिशा में काम किया जा रहा है।
The president also said that during the coronavirus pandemic, when attempts were made to challenge the country's capability at the border, the security forces not only responded to those machinations with promptitude, force and courage, but also foiled all attempts to change the status quo at the border.
LAC पर द्विपक्षीय संबंधों और समझौताओं को दरकिनार करते हुए शांति भंग करने की कोशिश की गई, लेकिन हमारे सुरक्षा बलों ने न केवल पूरी सजगता, शक्ति और हौसले के साथ इन षड्यंत्रों का मुंह तोड़ जवाब दिया, बल्कि सीमा पर यथास्थिति बदलने के सभी प्रयासों को भी नाकाम किया। मेरी सरकार देश के हितों की रक्षा के लिए पूरी तरह कटिबद्ध है और सतर्क भी है। LAC पर भारत की संप्रभुता की रक्षा के लिए अतिरिक्त सैन्य बलों की तैनाती भी की गई है।
The president said the government's policies to bring enduring peace to the Northeast based on sensitivity and collaboration has started showing clear results now. He mentioned the extremism in the Northeast is on the wane and there is a sharp decline in the number of violent incidents.
बड़ी संख्या में मतदाताओं की भागीदारी ने दर्शाया है कि जम्मू कश्मीर नए लोकतांत्रिक भविष्य की तरफ तेजी से आगे बढ़ चला है। प्रदेश के लोगों को नए अधिकार मिलने से उनका सशक्तिकरण हुआ है।
The president also highlighted some of the major policies of his government. Keeping in mind the global requirements and challenges of the 21st century, the government announced a national education policy. 29 central labor laws were amalgamated into 4 labor codes. Construction of a grand Ram temple has commenced after the Supreme Court judgment, and continuous steps were being taken to improve ease of doing business. Mentioning the Central Vista project, the president said that with the construction of the new parliament building, every member will get better facilities to effectively discharge their responsibilities. He said the government has shown that if intentions are clear, intentions are high, then change can be brought about. Newsnight Desk, DD India. Prime Minister Modi has said that the economic survey captures India's fight against COVID-19 and our nation's strong economy fundamentals. He said it emphasizes on the huge potential for economic growth, the importance of further scaling up innovation and the way ahead in key areas like health, unquote.
महात्मा के मंत्र। खुद वो बदलाव बनिए जो आप दुनिया में देखना चाहते हैं।
Countrymen and friends, let us therefore carry on the fight for liberty inside India and outside India with all our strength and vigor. must march forward and forward till victory is achieved and freedom won. Inqilab Zindabad. Azad Hind Zindabad.
Your window to rising India. India's voice on global platforms. Latest news from India and around the world. In-depth analysis of global headlines. Watch DD India in your country. Available for downlink in all Southeast Asian countries. STTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 17 at 93.5 degrees east. HDTV broadcast is available through the satellite GSAT 10 at 83 degrees east. For technical details, log on to ddnews.gov.in. Switch to DD India now.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India. Time now for our In Focus segment, in which we are discussing about economic survey forecasts a V-shaped recovery. And joining me is Dr. Krishnamurthy Subramanian, Chief Economic Advisor. Dr. Subramanian, welcome to DD India. Now,
thank you.
Help our viewers understand the attributes of this V-shaped recovery and what might be in it for Indians, the viewers watching us from India and investors watching us from around the world as well.
First, Ramesh, I think what we all need to acknowledge is that India's policy response to this global pandemic, which is a once-in-a-century event, was a very mature and measured one, where we drove our policy based on careful research that has been done both in epidemiology and in economics. For instance, Nobel Prize winning research by Lars Hansen and Tom Sargent, whom I had the privilege of learning from at the University of Chicago, have highlighted that when faced with an environment of enormous uncertainty, reducing the losses actually and cutting losses is the best thing to do, and that's why, faced with a pandemic, human life was actually potentially at the most danger, faced the most danger. Even, our own scriptures, Mahabharat, for instance, talks about, apadi prana raksha hi dharmasya pratham ankuraha. What it means is that a life in jeopardy is essentially saving that is the origin of dharma. So India's response, therefore, was based on this humane principle that while GDP growth will come back, and it indeed has, human lives that are lost will not be, cannot be brought back. That is what drove our response. That has helped us save lives, reduce cases, and at the same time also has led to a V-shaped economic recovery. And this also was highlighted that, if the lockdown is actually a stringent one early, then that enables economic recovery as well. So the V-shaped recovery has actually come from the quality of the policy response that India has had. After a 23.9% decline, the momentum has gathered 7.5% in Q2. We expect Q3 to be better, and going into the next year, I think that momentum should get carried over with an 11% or better growth rate.
Dr. Subramanian, talking about the pandemic and its impact on the economy, in your estimation, is the worst behind us already?
I would think so, that the recovery is happening well. India is the only country where lowering of cases and increasing mobility is going together. So I am quite optimistic that with the vaccination drive that is being launched, even some of the contact sensitive service sectors will also see demand coming back, because there's a lot of pent up demand there. A lot of us want to go on travel, tourism, etc. So that pent up demand actually will also drive these contact sensitive sectors. Manufacturing has already been doing well in the V-shaped recovery, and services even without these context sensitive sectors has been doing well. So I do anticipate that these will gather momentum, especially with the vaccination drive, the world's largest that is happening now.
And looking ahead, Dr. Subramaniam, your thoughts on the reforms measures that announced over the last several months, and also going forward, what can it be for people, for all the stakeholders concerned?
So India's response, as I said, on the economic side was based on the recognition that this pandemic has an impact both on the demand and on the supply side. And to take care of any impact on the supply side, it was necessary to implement reform so that the supply response actually gets built up, because there was the danger of firms basically going under financial distress, labor market difficulties, which may have a impact on supply, and therefore India launched a slew of structural reforms to take care of the supply side. But at the same time, on the demand side too, India's response was a nuanced one. We recognize this commonsensical aspect that if you actually have the clamp on the brakes of a car, then pressing on the accelerator only wastes fuel. But when you remove the clamp on the brakes, at that time if you press the accelerator, the vehicle moves ahead. And that is how India has tailored its demand side response as well. In the first few months, when the uncertainty was very high and when the restrictions were there on economic activities, India focused on essential items, the 80 crore people being given free food, the vulnerable sections, the cash benefit transfers, and liquidity and emergency credit being given to firms. Once the unlock phase began, then the emphasis has been on pushing up demand, especially for discretionary items. So when you put all this together, both the reforms and the demand side measure, India is a sui generis case in terms of the policy making that it has done. And history, when it looks at this particular episode, given that it is a once in a century pandemic, will definitely record its appreciation for how mature India has responded to this pandemic.
Indeed. Would you also give our viewers a sense, if you will, about credit rating? Is it looking up? I mean, are we on the right path, the right track?
The key point that we make in the third chapter in volume 1 of the economic survey is that if you look at the 5th largest economy in the world and do this over the last 2 decades, that particular plaque of being the 5th largest economy has been held by many countries, UK, Italy, etc. at other points in time, and China and India have actually held it in recent times. An anomaly that very clearly is seen is that when it has been a mature advanced economy that has held this position, their rating has been typically a AAA. But when an emerging giant like China or India has held that position, the rating has been substantially lower, A- in the case of China and BBB- in India's case. So this is a historical anomaly that has persisted for last 2 decades, and what the survey shows is that if you take any of the fundamentals, be it the growth rate, inflation, current account deficit and many other measures, India stands out as actually the sovereign rating not reflecting its fundamentals, and therefore that is something, this historical anomaly must be corrected.
Absolutely. Now, they say every crisis is an opportunity as well. In that context, there's a lot of discourse about resilient supply chains. Now, going forward, how sanguine are you that India will successfully wean away the supply chains with traditional markets and then bring them back home?
If you look at the reforms and the emphasis on that, the manufacturing sector, and enabling capacity and productivity in the manufacturing sector has been a key point of emphasis, and this is something which should definitely enhance productivity in the manufacturing sector, and thereby also enable some of those firms that are looking for opportunities to move away from other countries, to come to India. India provides such a large market and such a large labor force that with these reforms that will enable productivity increases, the potential is significant.
Now, you've drawn many analogies in your interventions through this afternoon. You spoke about the Mahabharata, you spoke about Malgudi days, you spoke about also the Indian cricket team. Now, in that context, is it fair to say that the Indian economy is on the winning path, the winning track, and that here's a winning combination and we are making winning a habit as well?
I would certainly think so, and the parallel is quite apt, because the Indian cricket team, after having been shot out for 36, within an hour and a half, went on to win the Test series, and that too in Australia at the Gabatoir, as it is said, the Gabba, and with a very depleted team. Similarly, India, actually the Indian economy, after having survived a 23.9% decline in Q1, has actually now really picked up momentum, and with the recovery that is projected and robust growth in the next year and thereafter, I think the V-shaped performance of the Indian cricket team should be reflected by the economy as well. Even more, actually, the resilience shown by the Indian cricket team is also something that is being displayed by the Indian economy.
Indeed. A quick word, Dr. Subramanian, also about, when we talk about investor confidence, a word about the FDI targets, which, going forward, how confident are we of meeting those as well?
I think the FDI story, I expect it to continue, the good story to continue, because if you look at the large economies, I don't think there are too many countries that can actually offer a 6.5–7% growth at the kind of large base that India offers. So for investors, I think the investments in the Indian economy actually offer unparalleled opportunities, and that is what is actually leading to the inflows in the FDI, which I certainly do expect, given what we have demonstrated in terms of the maturity in policy response, which I'm pretty sure the investors will take note of.
Now, another thing that stands out in the survey is the startup ecosystem. Now, 12 unicorns over the last 1 year, total 38. Your thoughts on the startup India, or the startup culture happening in India as we speak?
So in this survey, we've actually spent a lot of time talking about this. There's a chapter on innovation, heralding the fact that India for the first time has joined the group of top 50 nations in terms of its innovation, because innovation and startups go together. And if you would recall, last year's economic survey had actually focused on startups in particular. One key aspect that stands out on the innovation side is that the private sector needs to really step up. When you look at the comparison with advanced economies, the private sector spends about 68% of overall the gross expenditure on research and development. In contrast, in the Indian economy, this percentage is only 37, the government does a lot of heavy lifting by spending close to 60% of the research and development, while in the advanced economies, government spend only 22%. So it is now for the private sector to focus on innovation, just to be competitive and to actually enhance their competitive position, that they should be focusing on innovation, because COVID now has shown, for instance, the importance of technology, and the last 2 to 3 decades have shown the importance of innovation. So private sector must be focusing on innovation just from the competitiveness perspective, and this is something I say given a lot of research that I've done on innovation in my early years. While incentives are definitely there, and these are as liberal, if not more, compared to the advanced economies, the private sector must focus on having a long run vision and focusing on innovation just for their own competitiveness.
And finally, Dr. Subramanian, may I request you to take a step back and look at the year gone by. Now, in hindsight, India did well, you think, to adopt a calibrated fiscal approach and a step-by-step approach, unlike some other countries?
I think so. As I already highlighted, if the brakes were on in the car at that time, pressing on the accelerator would not have made that much sense. It would have just wasted fuel. And in this context, I'm talking about the fiscal space. It would have possibly gotten wasted. In contrast, focusing on essentials in the early part of the pandemic, when uncertainty was very high and economic restrictions were on, and then in a calibrated manner enhancing when the unlock phase was going on, focusing on discretionary spending. I think India has been unique in this, and this is also early on one had the opportunity to see some of the research in the United States, where the paychecks that were being mailed were being used by people only for food, food spending, and which we did through the PDS. So even in other countries, a lot of the fiscal spending that was done only went into essential items. So India, by not trying to actually press on the accelerator while the brake was on, I think certainly did well, and took a more nuanced approach to demand than just a very sort of a less nuanced approach.
Right, on that note, Dr. Subramaniam, thank you so much for making time to be with us on Newsnight tonight. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Right, moving on to other stories we are tracking here on Newsnight. Friday was day one of the budget session. The next report tells you about all that happened through the day.
Friday saw the beginning of the first session of Parliament of the new decade, which is highly critical in several ways. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said it himself that this decade is very important for India's bright future. He expressed the expectation that all parliamentarians will contribute to make the session meaningful in his customary address to the media at the start of a session.
मुझे विश्वास है कि जिस आशा और अपेक्षा के साथ देश के कोटि-कोटि जनों ने हम सबको संसद में भेजा है, हम संसद के इस पवित्र स्थान का भरपूर उपयोग करते हुए लोकतंत्र की सभी मर्यादाओं का पालन करते हुए जन आकांक्षाओं की पूर्ति के लिए अपने योगदान में पीछे नहीं रहेंगे, ये मुझे पूरा विश्वास है.
The session began with the President addressing a joint sitting of both Houses of Parliament. Its importance is also high, as it will see the tabling and passage of the annual Union Budget.
भारत के इतिहास में पहली बार हुआ कि 2020 में एक नहीं, हमें वित्त मंत्री जी को अलग अलग पैकेज के रूप में एक प्रकार से 4-5 मिनी बजट देने पड़े. यानी 2020 एक प्रकार से लगातार मिनी बजट का सिलसिला चलता रहा, और इसलिए ये बजट भी उन 4-5 बजट की श्रृंखला में ही देखा जाएगा, ये मुझे पूरा विश्वास है.
The first day of the session saw Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman tabling the economic survey in both houses. The first day also saw Rajya Sabha Chairperson M. Venkaiah Naidu paying homage to recently departed members and former members, including Ram Vilas Paswan, Ahmed Patel, Motilal Vora and Kamal Murarka. Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla also held a meeting of leaders of different parties on Friday to ensure smooth conduct of the House's proceedings. The Speaker appealed to all members to uphold the dignity of the temple of democracy.
हमने सभी राजनीतिक दलों के नेताओं से चर्चा की है, सबसे ये अपेक्षाएं की है कि सदन सुचारू रूप से चले, व्यवस्थित चले, हम अपने संवैधानिक दायित्वों को भी पूरा करें और संसद की मर्यादा को बनाए रखें. सभी राजनीतिक दलों ने आश्वस्त किया है कि हम सदन की कार्रवाई निर्बाध चलाने में सहयोग करेंगे.
The session will see the presentation of the Union Budget for financial year 2021-22. It will be held in two parts, from the 29th of January till the 15th of February, and then from the 8th of March to the 8th of April after a short break. Several key bills and discussions have been planned for the budget session. With Parliament team, Newsnight Desk, DD India.
All right, time now for all the news related to the COVID-19 pandemic in our COVID Wrap segment.
As of the 29th of January 2021 till 8 in the morning, a total of nearly 30 lakh beneficiaries have received the vaccination under the countrywide COVID-19 vaccination exercise. In the last 24 hours, 5,72,060 healthcare workers have been vaccinated across 10,205 sessions. 52,878 sessions have been conducted so far. The number of beneficiaries being vaccinated every day has shown a progressive increase. 72.46% of the total vaccinated beneficiaries are from 10 states. Uttar Pradesh accounts for maximum share of vaccinated beneficiaries, followed by Karnataka and Rajasthan. India's total active caseload continued to manifest sustained downward movement. It dropped to 1.71 lakh on Friday. The present active caseload now consists of just 1.6% of India's total positive cases. India's caseload per million population is one of the lowest when compared globally. It stands at 7,768. The count is much higher for countries like Germany, Russia, Italy, Brazil, France, UK and the US. India's cumulative tests have crossed 19.5 crores today. 7,42,306 tests were conducted during the last 24 hours. The national cumulative positivity rate fell to 5.5%. India's cumulative recoveries stand at 1.03 crores today. The recovery rate is 96.96%. 18,859 new daily cases have been recorded in the last 24 hours, whereas 20,746 patients have recovered and have been discharged in the last 24 hours as well. The jump in figures, according to State Health Department, is due to the reconciliation of district level and state level case, discharge and death figures. Newsnight Desk, DD India.
United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said India's vaccination campaign was the best asset that the world has today. He urged India to play a major role in the global vaccination campaign as well.
India played a very important role in the production of generics for use. That was, I would say, a very important element of democratization of access to medicines all over the world. We strongly hope that India will have all the instruments that are necessary to play a major role in making sure that a global vaccination campaign becomes possible. I think that the production capacity of India is one of the best assets the world has today, and I hope the world understands that it must be fully used.
The UN chief also said that the UN strongly hoped that India would have all the necessary instruments to play a major role in making sure that the global vaccination campaign was a success. Right, and now to the latest on the farmers' protest. While some farm unions have called off the protest after the 26 January violence in Delhi, at least one organization continues to camp on the outskirts of the city. Here's more.
Images from 3 border areas in Delhi NCR region. While in Ghazipur, sit-in protest continues by some group of farmers amid heavy police deployment. Tikri and Singhu borders saw local people reach the protest sites, appealing to farmers to end their protest and vacate the premises. But angered by appeal of the local people, the leaders of the farmers' organizations started creating ruckus at Singhu border, while locals continued with their demand to vacate the premises. As the police tried to convince them, clashes erupted between protesting farmers and local people. Amid simmering tension between protesters and local residents, police had to resort to lathi charge and use tear gas shells to dispel the crowd. In the meantime, Alipur station house officer was attacked with a sword shortly after stone pelting, which ensued between the farmers and locals in the area. Police said that farmer leaders were trying to provoke people there. In another development, Delhi police has made a public appeal asking people who were witness to the violence to share photos and videos with the police. 9 people have been arrested and sent to Tihar jail in connection with an attack on police personnel during a violent protest at Buradi ground on Thursday. Besides, police has also made arrests in connection with violence in Nangloi.
We are able to identify the accused and उस accused को हमने अरेस्ट कर लिया. ये अजय राठी है, ये हरियाणा का रहने वाला है, फार्मर बाय प्रोफेशन है और इनके ऊपर 3 मुकदमा भी है. During interrogation, अजय राठी ने ये बोला है कि हमको पहले ही जो दिए हुए रूट है उस रूट को फॉलो नहीं करने के लिए आदेश मिला हुआ था और कैसे भी रिंग रोड पहुंच के वहां से रेड फोर्ट पहुंचने के लिए इनको आदेश मिला हुआ था.
Meanwhile, BJP leader Smriti Irani accused Congress leader Rahul Gandhi of trying to provoke the farmers instead of having sympathy with the injured police personnel.
राहुल गांधी वो नेता हैं जो चाहते हैं कि देश भर में कानून व्यवस्था भंग हो. राहुल गांधी वो नेता है जो चाहते हैं कि अराजक तत्व देश में न सिर्फ तिरंगे का अपमान करे बल्कि देश को तोड़ने का भी दुस्साहस करे. आज भाजपा की कार्यकर्ता देश की नागरिक होने के नाते मैं राष्ट्र भर से अपील करती हूं कि राहुल गांधी के जितने भी मंसूबे हैं उन्हें हम सबको मिलकर नाकामयाब करने होंगे।
The police lodged an FIR against Congress MP Shashi Tharoor and several journalists for allegedly spreading misinformation on the farmers' tractor rally on Republic Day. Newsnight Desk, DD India.
A low-intensity blast took place near the Israeli embassy in Delhi on Friday. No one was injured. Windows of some cars parked nearby were damaged. 3 fire tenders were rushed to the spot on the Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Road. And Indian Foreign Minister Subramanyam Jaishankar spoke to his Israeli counterpart Gabi Ashkenazi after the explosion outside the Israeli embassy. In a tweet, Minister Jaishankar assured Israel of the fullest protection for the embassy and Israeli diplomats in India. He said the matter was under investigation and that no effort would be spared to find the culprits. And Mr. Jaishankar also held a conversation with his US counterpart Antony Blinken and congratulated him on his appointment. The minister in a tweet said, warm conversation with Secretary of State Secretary Blinken, congratulated him on his appointment, look forward to working with him again, agreed that we could build further on the solid foundation of our partnership, also discussed our efforts at combating the COVID-19 pandemic, unquote. Moving on, a high-level committee under the chairmanship of Home Minister Amit Shah has approved additional central assistance under the National Disaster Response Fund to 5 states which were affected by floods or landslides during Southwest Monsoon 2020 and hailstorm during Rabi 2019-2020. The committee has approved additional central assistance of more than 1,700 crore rupees to 5 states from the National Disaster Response Fund. While approving the assistance, the Home Minister said the government, under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, has resolved to help our sisters and brothers who brave these natural disasters. Now take a look at what else is making news around India in our National Roundup segment.
Local train services in Mumbai have resumed for essential workers and some categories today. Passengers, as permitted by Ministry of Railways and Government of Maharashtra, are only allowed to travel by suburban trains. Also, only 204 suspended trains have been resumed. BJP National Spokesperson Syed Shahnawaz Hussain took oath as members of Legislative Council in Bihar. Besides, Minister for Animal and Fisheries and President of Vikasashil Insan Party, Mukesh Sahan also took oath as MLC. Trinamool Congress MLA Rajiv Banerjee on Friday resigned from the West Bengal Assembly. He resigned as Forest Minister on January 22nd. Banerjee, who met Speaker Biman Banerjee in the Assembly and tendered his resignation on Friday, joins the list of a dozen MLAs of the Trinamool Congress who had quit the party. The administration of Jammu and Kashmir has decided to reopen universities, colleges and polytechnics in the Union Territory from February 1st. However, universities in Kashmir Valley and winter zone areas of Jammu Division shall open on 15th February after winter vacations. CBI has registered a case against 5 private persons and 2 superintendents of Customs, Air Intelligence Unit, SVP International Airport, Ahmedabad on the allegations that some unscrupulous persons were indulging in smuggling of gold in the form of paste and also 24-carat pure gold jewelry from abroad through SVP International Airport, Ahmedabad by engaging carriers. At least 4 people, including a woman, have died and 5 hospitalized after drinking spurious liquor in Rajasthan's Bhilwara district, police said on Friday. All the 5 people have been hospitalized. Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot announced an ex gratia of ₹2 lakh for the kin of the deceased, whereas ₹50,000 grant for those who are hospitalized.
The US government expressed outrage at Pakistan's top court ordering the release of a man convicted of beheading American journalist Daniel Pearl. Ahmad Omar Saeed Sheikh, who was the main suspect in the 2002 kidnapping and murder of the Wall Street Journal reporter, was acquitted by a panel of 3 judges. The White House spokesperson Jen Psaki called the decision an affront to terror victims everywhere.
The United States is outraged by the Pakistani Supreme Court's decision to affirm the acquittals of those responsible for Wall Street Journal reporter Daniel Pearl's kidnapping and brutal murder, which shocked the world's conscience in 2002. This decision to exonerate and release Sheikh and the other suspects is an affront to terrorism victims everywhere, including in Pakistan. We recognize past Pakistani actions to try to hold Mr. Pearl's murderers accountable, and we do note that as of right now, Omar Sheikh remains in detention in Pakistan under national security authorities. But we call on the Pakistani government to expeditiously review its legal options, including allowing the United States to prosecute Sheikh for the brutal murder of an American citizen and journalist. And we're committed to securing justice for Daniel Pearl's family and holding terrorists anywhere accountable for their heinous crimes.
Moving on, Bangladesh moved another group of Rohingya Muslims on Friday to a remote island in the Bay of Bengal. This despite concerns over the risk of storms and floods lashing the site. The densely populated South Asian country wants to transfer to the island a tenth of the 1 million refugees living in ramshackle border camps after they fled violence in neighboring Myanmar. The officer in charge of the island, Commodore Abdullah Al-Mamun Chaudhry, said 5 ships moved more than 1,700 Rohingya and their belongings. More were said to be moved on Saturday for a 2-day total of more than 3,000. They'll join the roughly 3,500 Rohingya sent there since early December, making a journey of several hours from the southern port of Chittagong. Japan's Prime Minister Suga Yoshihide said on Friday that Japan remained determined to hold the Olympics as planned in Tokyo this summer. Amid speculation that the event might be cancelled due to the coronavirus pandemic, the International Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach said the IOC was fully committed to it going ahead. Suga told a virtual meeting of the World Economic Forum that Japan was determined to deliver hope and courage to the world through the Games and that he would continue to collaborate closely with Bach to realize a safe and secure event. Thousands protested across Poland on Thursday as government put into effect a ruling banning terminations of pregnancies with fetal defects, which amounts to a near-total abortion ban. The ruling, first announced on 22nd October last year by the Constitutional Tribunal, led to weeks of massive protests, forcing the nationalist Law and Justice government to delay its implementation. Scuffles broke out between protesters in the capital, Warsaw, between protesters gathered outside the Constitutional Tribunal and the police. Under the new rules, terminations will be permitted only in cases of rape or incest and when the mother's life or health is endangered. Doctors performing illegal abortions in Poland face jail. The World Health Organization-led team of experts investigating the origins of COVID-19 in the Chinese city of Wuhan on Friday departed from a hospital that was one of the first to treat patients in the early days of the outbreak. After meeting with Chinese scientists earlier in the day, the team went to the Hubei Provincial Hospital of Integrated Chinese and Western Medicine, where they spent several hours. Reporters at the scene were pushed away by plainclothes security officer. The WHO team was released from 2 weeks of quarantine on Thursday. It plans to visit labs, markets and hospitals during its remaining 2 weeks in Wuhan, where the coronavirus was first identified in late 2019. Kenya said it was seeking an extra 11 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines on top of 24 million already ordered and hopes to have 16 million people inoculated by June next year. Sourced from major pharmaceutical manufacturers such as Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson, the extra doses will be acquired through the African Union's Disease Control and Prevention Body. The East African nation of more than 50 million people aims to vaccinate 1.25 million in phase 1 of the campaign by June this year, Senior Health Ministry official Mercy Mabagangi told the media. Now, this would cover health and care home workers as well as security and immigration personnel. The objective is to vaccinate 16 million against COVID-19 by June next year, she told a news conference, but said the target could change if more vaccines became available sooner. Now, as wealthier nations race ahead with mass immunization campaigns, Africa is scrambling to obtain supplies for its 1.3 billion people. Only a few nations on the continent have begun administering vaccines. Now, this year, Indian tunes remain the flavor of the beating retreat ceremony. Now, for the benefit of viewers tuning in from around the world who are not familiar with this Indian tradition, beating retreat is celebrated on 29th January every year. It marks the culmination of 4-day Republic Day celebration that began on 26th January, the date on which the Constitution of India came into effect in the year 1950 and India became a republic. Now, as many as 26 performances at the historic Vijay Chowk enthralled the audience with captivating and foot-tapping music by bands from the Army, Navy, Air Force and the Central Armed Police Forces as well. Now, the entry band was the massed band with the theme Swarnim Vijay or Golden Victory. It's a new composition to commemorate 50 years of victory of India in the 71 war to liberate Bangladesh. It was followed by the pipes and drums band, the Central Armed Police Forces bands, Air Force band, Naval band, Army band and the mass bands. Now, the event came to a close with the ever-popular tune of the patriotic song Sare Jahan Se Acha.
Gently sloping public patriotism.
That's a wrap, but news continues here on DD India. You can catch all the latest updates on our social media, mobile and digital platforms. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
और इस गीत के बाद